Alright, Shalom. This is going to be a quick video. So pretty much the video I'm about to play is a lady trying to connect the book of Job, or connect Job to being an Edommite. So she brings three claims or convincing theories, trying to convince the populace that Job was an Edommite. Okay, so I'm gonna let this before I let this video play out, I want to start off by giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bahashem, which means coming in the name of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, which people ignorantly call JC, Krakodash, and give double honors to the apostles, elders, a GMS who taught me the truth and sincerity. Also give peace and blessings to you elect out there that's pushing this truth to the four corners of the globe. All right, and so yep, I'm gonna play the video and then I'm gonna get into some scriptures and some facts, just pretty much to prove. I'm not going to well, of course I'm gonna refute her argument, but I just want to really show how there were other nations in the land of Uz, U-Z, the land of Uz. All right, during the time of Job, there were other nations there. And how do we know that? Based upon the scriptures. I'm not bringing any texts out other than the scriptures. Okay, so that's all I'm dealing with. I'm not dealing with other books, articles. Now, I did use Google. I used Google a little bit. So, but Google and the scriptures, that's all I got. I mean, that's all we need. So without further ado, here we go.
This video will share 3 pieces of evidence to support the claim that Job was indeed an Edomite. Evidence number 1. In the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 1, we learn that Job lived in the land of Uz.
Now, okay, so dealing with this, as I said, Job lived in the land of Uz. That's true. Now, let's go to the book of Job. All right. Few things we want to notice. You notice. So say, okay. So, when you go to Job, 1 and when you go to Job, chapter 1, and I'm gonna start at verse 15. I'm gonna read it, and then I'm gonna skip down to verse 17. Now, there's 2 key names in verses 15 and 17. All right, so verse 15, it says, and the Sabines fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Now, we jump down to verse 17. It says, while he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands. All right, and fell upon the camels and have carried them away. Yea, the slain the servants with the slain of the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. So, I mean, Job was pretty much getting robbed, right? So, but the whole point of why I read these 2 verses, because here you see in verse 17, it mentions the Chaldeans. Then verse 15 mentions the Sabines, or the Sabines. So you have 2 other groups of people that was in the land of Uz that this story, Job, is telling you about. All right, at least these 2 right now. Now, we're still in Job. We jump to chapter 32, and I'm gonna get it in the blue letter because we got some stuff to break down. So when you get into the blue letter, right, And like I said, I'm going to start at verse 32 or chapter 32. You scroll down here. Well, first look at the header. The header says, Elihu in anger rebukes Job. So who is this character to rebuke Job? Who's rebuking Job? That's a question that should be asked, because this individual here is a very important individual in the Bible, right? Elihu, you probably never heard of him. I didn't until I looked into it, until I read about it. So this Elihu, forgive me if I said his name wrong. When you study him, or when you go into him, it says that he's the second son of Nahor, Abraham's nephew, a Gadite. That's what it says. It says in the biblical outline usage, when you break it down in the Strong's Concordance, which I did that, and you see it now on the screen. So that's who this is. Now, let's do some more research, because when we look into this, you begin to see, right, that this character, there's a whole lineage based on his character. So when you look up, boom, I just Googled his lineage, right? It says an ancient Near Eastern tribal networks associated with Abraham's relatives. So he's associated with Abraham's relatives. Abraham was the patriarch, right, of Jacob, which is the father of the 12 tribes. What's wrong with this dude? My bad. I'm driving. So anyway, so basically he introduced himself. He introduced not only his name, but pretty much his heritage. Like his family name. I am such and such, son of such and such. Now he introduced himself as Ram, basically the family of Ram. And when you read into it, it says it is also noted being of the kindred of Ram, right? It says which connects his clan to an early tribal or branch in the region of near Uz. So his family is connected, or they reside near the land of Uz. It says because the land of Uz, some parts were Edommite regions, right? Okay. So we understand, okay, this is Abraham's. So pretty much Abraham's brother is Nahir. He's a descendant of Nahir. So, you could put two and two together, right? He's a descendant of Nahir. Now, Nahir, let me look it up. Basically, hold on, let me get some. Okay, so when we look at this tree, oh snap. When you look at Nahir, see, now I pulled up pretty much what I did was I pulled up Abraham's family tree. So Tahar or Tahir, okay, which is Abraham's father, as you can see, he had a son named Nahir, and then you see the arrow that's going down, and you see Bethuel, and then two arrows go down like a V, and you see Laban and Rebecca. And then you go down some more and you see Leah and Rachel, right? Now that's important, because when we go to the book of Genesis, let me get that real quick. All right, that's Genesis chapter 28. And I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, and Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, so you're giving a commandment. It says, thou shalt not take a wife thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Okay? So he's telling them, don't go to the land of Canaan and take a Hamite daughter, pretty much. Right? It says, arise and go to Pandararam. And you notice at the end of that land, it has Ram in it. I don't know if that matters or if it's significant to the region, or because Bethiel was there, or that family. You seen the family tree. So anyway, it says the house of Bethiel. Now again, we're gonna click on that again. What is the house of Bethiel? That's what we want to know. As you can see, in the Hebrew it says Yahweh destroys, or man of Yahweh. So it says man of Yahweh, or dweller in Yahweh. So as you can see, again, when you go down, the nephew of Abraham, the son of Nahor, the father of Rebekah. All right, and they went to a town that was south of the land of Simeon, that's what it says down here. Okay, so that's where that's it. And it says, thy father's mother, and take thee a wife from hence, the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. Okay, so basically, we go back to the chart, right? And you see you see Rebecca, right? You see it right there. Rebecca and Isaac had Jacob and Esau. So Rebecca's father, so pretty much Rebecca was connected to Abraham's brother or nephew. So if Abraham is the father of the Israelites, what about his brother? So you can't say, oh well, because they all came from Shem. Tahir came from the line of Shem. So and you can't say like, oh well, okay, because the Lord favored Lot. Lot is on this chart. As you can see, it's right there. Haran. So that was Lot's nephew. Abraham took Lot with him. You see where I'm going with this? So basically, what I'm trying to convey is there were different, just like any other town, city, state, countrymen. There are gonna be different groups of people, all right, in those land masses. Here we live in the land of America, which is considered in the history books. This is considered Esau's land, right? This is the land he took from our people, the Native Americans, but he has stamped it and called it his. So we can't just say Job is an Edommite because he lived in the land of Uz. Which, when you look up, because this is what she did. Pretty much what I Googled was, did Edom dominate in the land of Uz? And it says, no, Edom primarily, it says, whether it's posing a question. Basically, it's saying it don't know. Edom predominantly dominated the land of Uz. Depends on how you map the biblical setting of Job, right? But I would dare to say that there was a significant part of the land of Uz, maybe, that the Edomites did control as far as territory. I know that the Chaldeans had a little, because I seen it. The Chaldeans was in the land of Uz. Like, let me go into that. Hold on. First, I want to deal with this though. Because the land of Uz, it says northern Arabia or the southern Jordan, directly bordering or overlapping with the ancient Edommite Mount Seir. So looking at the map, you can see where Esau's territory was. Anyway, now let's put the Chaldeans. It says, no, the Chaldeans did not dominate the land of Uz. All right, they appeared, and basically they appeared in Job only as nomadic raiders. So nomadic means they were all over the place. They were moving around as well, who pillaged Job's camels. All right, but it's still, as you know, let me see. It says, location of Uz. Scholars place the land of Uz in Edom. All right, we read that. It says the Chaldean territory. The Chaldeans predominantly lived far to the east in southern Mesopotamia near Persia Gulf, not in the Semitic / Edomite borders of the land of Uz, but they were there taking Job's livestock. And as you can see, it references Job chapter 1 verse 17. All right. And as you can see, Job's neighbors, the Sabians, boom. Now, let's deal with the scriptures. So when we go back to the scriptures, right, and we go into verse, let me see, I want to start with 32. Brother man right here, Elimahu, introduced himself. I already broke all this down. That's what his name means. God blesses. All right.
Strong's H 1292. Barachel.
The Buzite. And it says one of the ancestors of Elim Allahu, whatever his name is, but so basically, yeah, he was just an ancestor of really of the chosen. He was a part of the chosen line. He was a big deal. If you go into his name, he had notoriety, right? Hold on, Ram. Let's look this up. And as you can see, the ancestor of David. So when you look this dude up, right? And it tells you right here, a kindred of a friend of Job. Yeah, kindred. Let's look his name up, because I want to show you how this is connected to King David. Now, it shows you the scripture too, but it says Elihu was a blood-related brother of King. Well, I think this is a different one. King David. Let Let me see. One second. All right. Now I just basically looked up Elihu in the book of Job. Are they connected to King David? And it said that the book of Job and King David rest on a shared ancestral name, Ram. So again, that Ram name was important. Okay. It says interpreters suggest that there's a blood relation through the lineage of Ram, an ancestor of King David, in Ruth chapter 4, verse 19. Most biblical scholars view this as a shared clan or tribe name rather than a direct family blood tie. All right, there you can see. Here it is. It's also mentioned in the book of Chronicles. That Ram is important. Okay, that Ram is very important. Let me see. It says many modern scholars suggest Ram in Job refers to a Aramean clan or a region distinct from the specific Judite ancestral Ram in David's royal family. All right, distinct, specific words like that, so yeah, that's what it's saying. That he's connected to the bloodline of David. Now we can argue that all day, we can go back and forth, all right, but what we do know, right, is that Ram, or what I just showed you, the name is connected. He is connected to Leah and Rachel, or Laban and Rachel, through bloodline. So no matter how you argue it, right? And we know, boom, King David comes from that same line too. All right, because you get Jacob, right? And then Jacob's wife, and then you get the 12 tribes. And then David comes through the line of Judah. So no matter how you put it, he's connected. So we can get off the land. You can't base everything off land. Just like you'll find somebody from Moab, all right, or a Chinese motherfucker here, and you can't just say, oh well, the majority of Chinese people live here, because you found a Chinese person here. You can't say that. You can't. All right, let's go back to her video.
And in Lamentations chapter 4, verse 21, we learn that Edomites dwell in the land of Uz.
Yes, Edomites did dwell in the land of Uz, because Mount Seir was overlaid into the land of Uz. And the land of Uz was a wicked ass place. All right.
Evidence number 2. In the 42nd chapter of Job, the 17th verse in Brenton's Septuagint.
Now, we're not dealing with the Brenton Septuagint. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing just based off the Bible. And when you go to Job 24 or 42, Job chapter 42 in verse 17, it doesn't say anything of what she's going into. People go and you read these wayward ass, off ass books that have nothing to do with the Bible, or if they do, they're giving you misinformation. If the Lord didn't inspire it, or the Lord didn't write it, hence the Bible, you could argue, oh, the Lord didn't write, man wrote the Bible, but it was inspired by the Lord. All right, these are the Lord's words that are in this Bible. So I can't go based off of the whatever book she's reading. Okay?
There is a paragraph that follows that verse, and it reads this way. This man is described in the Syriac book as living in the land of Osis, on the borders of Idumea and Arabia, and his name before was Jobab. And having taken an Arabian wife, he begot a son whose name was Enon, and he...
I mean, that's pretty much it. She's going off. I've never, if Job was connected to Esau, I believe we would there would be more evidence to it. There's more evidence pointing towards him not being connected to Esau versus the few scriptures that I brought out, and I got a couple of more to go into. Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward with this. She's not really saying much.
Who reigned in evidence in...
We'll go to evidence 3.
Jobab, who is called Job, etc. And the third piece of evidence in Genesis chapter 36, verse 31 to 34 says, and these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before there reigned any king over the children of Israel.
All right, we'll go into where she just brought that out.
31 to 34 says,
I think she Genesis 36. So let's go to that real quick. And as you can see, these are the generations of Edom. All right. And I just want to see, are we going to see Job's name, right? Are we going to see Job's name, or, let me see. So bear with me. She said 30. Let's see where she said 30. Here it is, 32. So 32, let's see who this is. Johabab. It says, the last in order of the sons of Joktan, a descendant of Shem, one of the kings of Edom. Okay, so this has nothing to do with Job. All right, it's just a name, and the name means a desert. That's what it means. But this has nothing to do with Job. Let me see. Where is she going with it? Let's see where she's going with this.
Yes, and these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before there reigned any king over the children of Israel. And Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Jobab, the son of Zarah of Basora, reigned in his stead, and Jobab died, and Husham of the land of Temani reigned in his stead. This summarizes what was said in the paragraph we just read in Brenton's Septuagint.
Well, they butchered that because this ain't got nothing to do with Job. So that book, and this is why we tell you Israelites, you brothers and sisters, to stay away from these wayward doctrines. Stay away from these books, these different books. Even in the amplified version or the NLT, in verse 33, right here on the screen, you're not gonna see Job's name, because this is not fucking Job. And you women, stop teaching the Bible, man. Stop teaching the Bible. All right. And this is the blue letter. And this is not saying anything about Job. Nothing. I don't see anything. No. This is just a family history, right? On the descendants of Edom. And who ruled? It's what are we talking about? But that's it, man. I hope this lesson. Hold on. No, I got a couple more scriptures. Hold on. Let's go to Job 32:6 real quick. I might have already read it. Job 32:6. All right. I already read that. So he's just introducing himself. All right. I'm going through the scriptures I wrote down. All right, let's try 33:4. So the next chapter over, 33 and verse 4, and it reads, "The Spirit of Yahweh have made me, and the breath of the Almighty have given me life." Now, why is that important? Why am I bringing this out? Because during this time, right, if you know the scriptures, you would know about that breath of life and what that really is. It's not talking about just the air you breathe, right? Breathing. It's not talking about. This breath of life goes into the truth and knowledge of knowing Yahweh, right? The commandments, all of that. All of it. All right? And then how you know it's not talking about an actual breath, when you go into different versions, right? When you go into the AMP, it says, "The Spirit of Yahweh has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life," which inspires me. So a breath, right? Just you breathing is not going to inspire you to get your ass up and go to the gym. And I know, if anybody know, I know. Me waking up in the morning me waking up and breathing does not inspire me to go to the gym. I got to get my ass up and go. All right. Now, I want to read you another scripture so we understand that that's not talking about a regular breath. I want to jump down to verse 6. It says, "Behold, I am according to thy wish in Yahweh's stead. I also am formed out of the clay." Now, you can argue, is this talking about a mortal body being formed out of a clay? Is this talking about just the body? Is this talking about him being mortal? Is this just talking about him being black or brown or a color of hue? Because hue means color. You got to ask those questions, right? Now, when you read it in different versions, let me see. Let's try to get it in a different version real quick. How do I do that? 33. My bad. I'm just trying to figure out how. All right, I got the email. Let's go to the King James version real quick. I'm just trying to get different versions so we can narrow out what we know is not, right? Okay, here go to NLT. Boom, let's read it in the NLT. It says the same thing. Look, you and I both belong to Yahweh. I too was formed from clay. So he was a man of the Lord. And we know throughout the scriptures who the Lord chooses as his chosen. We know who his chosen are. There is a bloodline connection to the chosen. Because back in Genesis, you had the sons of men, you had the sons of God, and you had the sons of the wicked. So the sons of the wicked were pretty much Cain's lineage, right? Now today it's Esau's lineage. And then you had, back in the day, you had the sons of God, right? The sons of the descendants of Shem, right? What they call the Nephilim, which means the renown. Adam's descendants, who he gave the breath of life to, or the truth to, the commandments, what to do, what not to do. Okay? And then you got the other nations. The other nations, the son of men, just the other nations. That's it. All right? I want to get another scripture. I think that's it, actually. Yeah, that should be it. Yeah, I read Job 32 and 6. I read Job 33 and 4. Yep, I read that. 36 and 4. Yeah, that really don't mean nothing. And then Genesis 28. We went to Genesis 28 because that proved that Jacob was sent away to go get one of the daughters of the house of Bethel. Let's look up Bethel again. And as you can see, boom, the nephew of Abraham. So, yeah, that's it, man. That's it. He's the nephew of Abraham. So, they had their thing going. So Jacob went and took a wife from them. So you pretty much got a pure blood, I dare to say a pure blood Israelite. Because we know, like, when you go through the genealogy, right, when you go into Chronicles or Matthew chapter 1 or something, when you go through the Chronicles of Yahushua, or the line of Judah, let's see if we can find Ram here. But the line of Judah, you would see like some of the fathers took on heathen wives, basically. Like not heathen wives, but they had a child with concubines. Some of them did. All right, Solomon, Rehoboam, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to prove those facts. That's why it's good to stay away from these wayward books, because when you really do the digging, all right, when you dig, you would end up seeing that you would see that certain shit ain't lining up right? Again, you go to the book of Job, right? And as you can see, it says there was a man out of the land of Uz. So we know what that land is, and we know who was in that land. And we only know who was in that land based on what the scriptures tell us. As you can see in verse 17, we understand the Chaldeans were there. They were nomads. They probably went there to restock on goods or whatever the case may be, or robbing motherfuckers, and then they went on to do their own thing. And then you got the Sabians. All right, so you had different groups of people. Then you go to Job again, just to give a summary of what's going on. You go to Job chapter 23 and 2, and you got the Ram family. As you can see, it says kindred of Ram. So he's a kindred of the Ram family. And I just went into the scriptures and showed you who the Ram family was connected to. So you have them. And he said, hey, Job, you are chosen. You are basically, if Israel was, basically you chosen. You of the chosen lineage. But anyway, I hope this lesson was edifying. Again, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Rakakwada Shalom.